Good morning. Welcome into this episode of the Chiefs Zone Podcast. I am Farzin Vasugan. Appreciate you all joining me on this morning edition of the Chiefs Zone Podcast. I want to say it's our first morning show of 2026. Probably so. We don't do very many of these, but it's been a very busy week, so we are jam-packing a lot of Chiefs Zone podcasts this week. This is going to be a good one. We're going to have Kendall Gammon here on the podcast, former Chiefs Radio Network analyst and former Chiefs Pro Bowl long snapper, the first ever Pro Bowl long snapper in NFL history. So very excited to talk to Kendall, pick his brain on the Chiefs coaching staff that is starting to take form on the offensive side of the football with Eric Bieniemy coming back. Also, Chad O'Shea technically also coming back. And Kendall Gammon was on the team when Chad O'Shea got his first opportunity with Kansas City. So we'll talk to him about all of that, get his thoughts there, and get into whether or not he thinks Travis Kelce could come back, Patrick Mahomes and his recovery, all of that and more with Kendall Gammon here on this episode of the Chiefs Zone Podcast. We're doing two podcasts today. We're doing one right now, and then later on, we will be doing the regular Chiefs Zone at 7 p.m. So make sure you guys join me for that later today. This podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. That's where I go to for all of my sports ticketing needs, concerts, anything you want to attend. And if you want to save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek, new customers can enter my promo code Farzine. Save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. All right. Let's get right into it. So I did want to get into the Eric Bieniemy hiring. Presumably he's hired. And I know a lot of people continue to voice their opinions on this, positive and negative. Look, here's what I'll say. Because I know the big knock on this move is, oh, the Chiefs didn't contact anyone else. I guess people are bothered that the Chiefs weren't looking to interview anyone. First of all, how do we know if anyone else was interviewed? Because we had no inkling whatsoever about Chad O'Shea being the wide receivers coach, or that they were interviewing anyone for that position. A lot of people thought it was going to be Greg Lewis coming back to Kansas City. Did not end up being the case. So for those who did want change in some coaching areas, I guess you got it with the wide receivers coach. But with Bieniemy, look, I've always said I don't necessarily agree with superstar players having a say in things, but that's just the way it goes. Mahomes, Brady, Manning, LeBron, those athletes, they always get to share their input on things. But to a lot of you guys want Mahomes, his approval on things. Last week, he was asked about what he wants in an offensive coordinator, talked about someone who loves football, knows football, somebody that is going to hold guys accountable, and also new ideas, fresh ideas. I don't remember the exact wording he used, but it's almost like he read something from what Chiefs Twitter has been saying for months. You're kind of getting that. Now, this may not be brand new, fresh ideas, but let's be honest, Andy Reid was not going out of his coaching tree. I mean, he reunited with Steve Spagnuolo after letting Bob Sutton go. Doug Peterson moved on. He hired Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy moved on. Eric Bieniemy became the offensive coordinator. Eric Bieniemy moved on, brought back Nagy, and eventually Nagy became the offensive coordinator after Bieniemy left. And now you're seeing the same thing with Nagy expected to move on. We'll see what ends up happening with his head coaching search and quest to become a head coach a second time, I guess. But they're bringing back Bieniemy for a second time to be the offensive coordinator, just like how they did with Matt Nagy, making him the offensive coordinator twice, two different stints. I know he came back as a quarterbacks coach, but then he became the new OC once Bieniemy left. So Andy does not look outside of his coaching tree often. And listen, how many more years does he have left of coaching? It's not too big of a deal there. So I'm okay with it. I think one thing that really just gets exacerbated with the whole Eric Bieniemy thing is the article or blog post, which was quickly it was deleted in less than 24 hours, about conflict behind closed doors. And listen, I think part of the reason why the writers of that, I think they called themselves the Chiefs Kingdom editorial board. The reason why they removed it is because they got called out real fast on some of the accusations they made. So, for example, they said that I guess the coaches weren't getting the play calls in, and Mahomes apparently spoke back, saying he'll call the plays if he doesn't get it. Yet, there's no way for a quarterback to communicate back to the coaches, because a lot of you know the players that have the green sticker on the back of their helmets. Those are players that can hear the coaching staff. They get the play calls. And then they tell the rest of their teammates. So you can't communicate back on those helmets. And that's one big thing they got called out on. So anyway, I digress. That was a big reason. That was the Bieniemy versus Chiefs narrative. And I guess there were a couple of sideline incidents where, Mahomes and Bieniemy were jawing at halftime one time. Same with Travis Kelce and Bieniemy, a light shove there, quickly made up for it, hugged him right after that. I think people just make a big deal out of small things. I mean, listen, Andy Reid and Travis Kelce had a moment on the sidelines for Super Bowl 58 with that shove. Remember that? So it's not just Eric Bieniemy. I think sometimes, when the expectations are so high, obviously, there are big heads on this team. And rightfully so. I mean, they've all earned it. Andy Reid, Mahomes, Kelce, Bieniemy. So sometimes when they don't see eye to eye on things, they aren't happy with the outcome and how things are being gone about, how they approach things. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think some people, I don't know why there's such a big narrative with Bieniemy in this manner. Because Travis Kelce on his podcast that came out this morning says he loves that Bieniemy's coming back. He thinks it's a great idea and it's great for the team. He says it's a marriage that's going to pick up right where it left off. Do marriages do that? I've never been married before, so I couldn't tell you. Kelce's about to get married, but yeah, I don't think marriages work like that per se, but I get what he's trying to say. He thinks, because what's the nice part about this new, quote unquote, new offensive coordinator? Well, he's not actually new. Hence the quotations there. There's not going to be a learning curve with this offense. They're going to, they know what's expected. Bieniemy knows from the leaders, Mahomes and presumably Kelce, which I'll get into that part in a moment, whether Kelce's going to come back or not. And we'll also ask Kendall Gammon about it. But Kelce, I mean, you know what you're going to get from your leaders. And Kareem Hunt may come back as well. And I think with that leadership, that will spread through the rest of the offense with Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, Tyquan Thornton, Jalen Royals, the offensive linemen who are not familiar with Eric Bieniemy, like Josh Simmons and Kingsley Suamataia. They'll get to know Bieniemy quickly. And Patrick will say, hey, guys, look, I know it's a little different last time. This time, it's going to be more aggressive. He's going to get in your face. And this is the no-nonsense expectation from Coach B. So that leadership is important. I think this move would not be as easy, the transition back to Bieniemy, if Mahomes was no longer on the team. That'd be a whole different situation. But fortunately, that's not the case here. Now, something else Kelce said. He continues to endorse this move, talked about how, you saw in Chicago what he did with the running backs and just how they appreciated him there. He then goes on to say, I can't wait to see him back in the building. He's one of my favorite coaches of all time, one of my favorite people of all time. Continues to praise him, says he loves the guy. First off, he nullifies all the, not intentionally, but he indirectly nullifies the narrative of how EB and the Chiefs, they hate each other. Second of all, he says, I can't wait to see him back in the building. Listen, I try not to overthink these kinds of things, but I can't help it. Did Travis Kelce unintentionally confirm that he's coming back next year? Again, the quote is, I can't wait to see him back in the building. If Kelce retires, I highly doubt, he just shows up whenever he wants to the practice facility. I mean, if you're retired, you're no longer part of the team. But if you can't wait to see someone back in the building, why would you be in the building? It's not because you're retired, it's because you're still playing. Again, that's what Kelce said. So, listen, I even said before this Bieniemy hiring that I think Kelce is going to come back for one more season. Some of you guys believe that with the Bieniemy return, that this will only help Kelce's decision in wanting to come back for one more year. I just look at those words right there. I can't wait to see him back in the building. I think that confirms he's coming back. Maybe he didn't mean for it to come off that way. Listen, I get sometimes people say things and they don't know how it's going to be perceived. So I guarantee you when they recorded this, more likely than not on a Tuesday, they probably I'm sure Jason didn't even pick up on that. And listen, maybe Travis has already informed, his fiance, his family, what he's going to do. Because I know the speculation is if Kelce really did play his last game in Vegas against the Raiders, why didn't we see Donna Kelce, Jason Kelce, Taylor Swift, Papa Kelce? I mean, why were they not there? I didn't really think of that, but a lot of you guys did. But I'm looking at this quote, and he says he can't wait to see EB back in the building. That tells me he's coming back for 2026. So one more year of Travis Kelce. And listen, enjoy it, because I remember many years ago saying when Tony Gonzalez got traded, I said, the Chiefs are not going to have a tight end like him ever again. And not only was I wrong, the Chiefs, in my opinion, got someone better. They got the best tight end of all time. Tony Gonzalez, statistically speaking, I think is the best tight end of all time pre-Travis Kelce, because sure, he may have only had just one playoff win in his career, but I don't think you can put that on a tight end. The amount that he's contributed in his career and the numbers he put up, astronomically high for a tight end. And I think Travis Kelce has done the same thing, but I don't think he'll ever be able to get to Tony Gonzalez and Antonio Gates for their receptions, yards, and touchdown numbers. But boy, Travis Kelce kind of makes up for it with the tight end GOAT debate when you look at his postseason numbers, because his numbers are right up there with Jerry Rice for most catches, receiving yards, touchdowns, 100-yard receiving games of all time by any player. So, listen, the case, in my opinion, for Kelce is very easy as to why he's the best tight end. So you're going to get him back for one more year. And if you're a Chiefs fan that dreads the day that he'll step away from the sport, enjoy this last year with him. Hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully it's going to be better than what we had this past year with a 6-11 record. And I think it will be better. Hopefully it'll be much better with Kelce getting to call himself a Super Bowl champion for the 4th time in his career. That'd be big. So we'll see how that goes. NFL playoffs, let's go. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, makes every moment feel bigger. In the postseason, the game shifts fast, and with DraftKings live betting options, you can stay right in the moment. Make every moment matter this NFL postseason with DraftKings. And as you know, it is Championship Sunday this week. I'm going to give you my biggest game for Sunday. I'm going to go with the NFC Championship game, Rams, Seahawks, division rivals. This is going to be a good one. Obviously, it's going to be their 3rd time playing each other. The first time, the Rams won by 2 points. The last time they played was that epic Thursday night football game in December. That was when the Seahawks won by 3 in overtime. Obviously, both games came down to the wire. This one won't be any different. Plus, DraftKings has your back with early exit protection, meaning if the player in your NFL prop bet goes down in the first half, you will still get paid in cash. With DraftKings, you're covered through the entire first half, so why bet player props anywhere else? New customers, here's your shot. Bet just $5, and if that bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use my promo code ChiefZone. That's code ChiefZone to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 and over in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Joining us right now on the Chiefs Zone podcast, former Pro Bowl long snapper for the Kansas City Chiefs, also part of the Chiefs radio network for, I want to say, about a decade and a half. Did it for a very long time. His last game was Super Bowl 54, rode off into the sunset with Mitch Holthus doing that game when the Chiefs won their first Super Bowl in 50 years. Still very active in the media here in Kansas City doing Chiefs analysis. Very excited to have back on the podcast, Kendall Gammon. Kendall, thanks for being on. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm good. Appreciate you taking time to come back on the podcast. I was thinking of something the other day as I was reaching out to you to have you on the podcast. I know you do a lot of public speaking and whatnot, and I think I may have told you this once before when we first met and interacted. You spoke at my middle school graduation. I still remember that. Circa Lakewood Middle School, 2005.
Yeah.
And listen, it was a long time ago, but I do remember one of your points, and I think you were trying to deliver a message about not forgetting, don't forget your classmates, because I think you shared a story. I think it was at Pitt State, because that's where you went, and you met, I can't remember if it was a teammate or a classmate, and you were saying hi to them, and they forgot your name, and they called you Matthew or something different, if I remember that correctly.
Okay, so that was actually my rookie year with the Steelers. And
okay.
At the Christmas party, and I walked by Merrill Hodge, and I said, and I was with somebody else, and walking along, and I started laughing. They're like, "What are you laughing about?" I was like, "Well, that's Merrill Hodge. He's our starting fullback, and he has absolutely no idea who I am." So yeah.
Oh man. Well,
that's okay.
Listen, it happens. You see someone, you just see a familiar face. You think, Mike, Jim, Kendall.
Yep. Absolutely. All good. I still tell that story.
That's fun. I can't remember if you mentioned the Merrill Hodge part. I'd like to think I would have remembered that.
Yeah, well, and even to that, with people not knowing, my rookie year, I was a long snapper, but I was a backup offensive lineman as well. And we had one game against the Jets where we had a couple guys go down, and I was the third and only backup lineman left. So I went in at right tackle, and our QB, Neil O'Donnell at the time, when I got in there, he just looked at me. He was just like, "What are you doing in here?" I'm like, "All we got." And so we got some live reps in my rookie year.
I think Priest Holmes shared a story on his podcast. His host, and I apologize, I don't know the name of the host, but he was asking, is it possible that, you come across someone in your locker room and you just don't know who they are? He kind of chuckled. He's like, yeah, it's possible. I guess that's more common than we realize.
It probably is, certainly for your young guys. More common during off season and training camp, because you have guys there, as opposed to 53. When you're 53, you generally know everybody. I know I always did. I was a NFLPA rep, National Football League Players Association. I was a rep elected by my teammates 10 of my 15 years. So I always felt like I knew everybody. And so, yeah, it's interesting. But when you have 90, that can be all of a sudden you got by somebody and they ask you how you're doing. You're like, "What's up?" And it becomes either "What's up, big dog?" or "What's up, chief?" or "What's up, buddy?" Come up with a lot of different names.
Speaking of having so many guys, on a locker room, on a football team, the Chiefs did announce that they are hiring, or the Chiefs have not announced it just yet, just to be clear, but reports are out there that they are going to hire Chad O'Shea, the former wide receivers coach of the New England Patriots, was also the wide receivers coach for the Browns, as well as their pass game coordinator, was the offensive coordinator of the Dolphins for one season under Brian Flores. He got to start with Kansas City as a volunteer assistant. And I would imagine, listen, I know you got your head coach, your coordinators, position coaches. You have some assistant position coaches. Then you have quality control coaches, as well as, volunteer coaches. Did you have any connection or communication with Chad O'Shea in 03 when he got his NFL start with you guys back then?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because he was basically functioning as a regular assistant coach. And yeah, you mentioned that all those different levels, and then volunteer assistant, that's just barely above house cat. I mean, in the pecking order, it's not that high up. So he definitely started at the bottom and worked his way up. And then the next 2 years after that first year, the next 2 years, he was the assistant coach with Coach Vermeil before he moved on. So I lost track of him for a while, but then came back across him. Maybe it might have been at a Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Maybe Morton Anderson's. He might have been there for somebody else. So we talked a little bit. And of course, at the time, he was the wide receivers coach for the New England Patriots. But I think that was when he was getting ready to transition over to, I believe, the Browns.
What do you make of that move? Because, and I will say this, Kendall, I started this podcast in 2007. Obviously, you talk about the head coach and the coordinators, but in all my years doing this podcast, I've never seen a position coach in Kansas City get so much attention. In the last 3 years, I know Embry did a press conference a couple of years ago that Chiefs fans weren't really too fond of, and the receiving core, the drops a couple of years ago, and the drops kind of came back. They let him go, and they're bringing in O'Shea. And my immediate thought is, okay, with Bieniemy also expected to come back, you got Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, Tyquan Thornton hopefully resigns. You have Jalen Royals, who wasn't used much last year, but I would imagine they're going to try to utilize him. You got a lot of young guys who've never worked under Bieniemy and O'Shea. I immediately think of the potential development with those guys, especially Worthy and Rice. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think you bring in veteran coaches who kind of their reputation precedes them, which is to say they've been in the league for a while. And certainly with Bieniemy, he's got some familiarity with the organization, obviously, and he's known as a disciplinarian, and we've heard a lot of that talk and everything. And I think that's a good thing, if that's actually happening. So I think if that happens, and it sounds like it's going to, I think those are great moves. I think sometimes, change of scenery is necessary. I mean, let's remember that Andy Reid was let go from Philadelphia to come here. I mean, even what some consider one of the best, if not the best coach ever, was let go somewhere. So it happens. It's part of the NFL and the coaching cycle, the coaching tree. The coaching tree is really, I always describe it as one big regurgitation of going in circles. And so, sometimes a change of scenery and a change of voice in the room makes a difference.
Yeah, I think some people get too caught up with what have you done for me lately. I get that's right. The big deal now. I remember, and I know this is not the greatest example because a lot of people listening are also KU fans, but when Charlie Weiss was let go by Notre Dame, he immediately came over to Kansas City as the offensive coordinator, and I remember a lot of people saying, oh, why are we getting the guy who just got fired? Well, he was a head coach. He's coming here to be an offensive coordinator where he excelled. And like you said, I mean, 3 Super Bowls on the back half of New England's dynasty. I think this is absolutely what this offense needs.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And you talk about respect and him being in the league. We're talking about Chad O'Shea for 20 years and having 3 Super Bowls to his name, having done some offensive coordination and pass game with the Browns. I think it's a great fit, and I bet he's excited to be here. These were good times. I look forward to connecting to him. I did text him, but I haven't heard back, and I have a feeling that's probably one of 2 things. Either number one, it just hasn't gone through yet, or they're not supposed to say anything, or number 2, he doesn't like me. And the second is certainly possible, but I don't think so.
Hopefully he hears you like Merrill High.
There we go. Exactly right.
You look at this offense right now with Bieniemy coming back. I know there have been some mixed reactions, and I know you already alluded to, the discipline, no nonsense, accountability, and I know there have been, I guess, honestly, in my opinion, it's kind of been over-exaggerated, the behind closed doors conflict. I mean, I just think, there are certain styles, different styles from different coaches, and I think Bieniemy just brought that stuff. Because listen, with all due respect to Nagy, the Chiefs were never above 15th in scoring in any of the last 3 years. The Chiefs have been in the top 6 in scoring and total offense every year under Bieniemy, and I just think that Chiefs need that offensive, that killer instinct. And I'll give you an example. That Broncos game, the first Broncos game, Chiefs score a touchdown. They're up 19-16. They don't get another first down the rest of the game, and the Broncos just kick a couple field goals to win the game. They just need to find a way to finish games, and I think Bieniemy can help do that.
Well, I hear you, but I don't know if I want to say I push back on that. But the fact is, Andy calls the plays, and so the coordinator Kansas City is a different beast. I mean, I think it's why you don't get and I don't mean this as any disrespect to Eric, but this is why you don't get a true offensive coordinator coming here, because you're not going to be a true offensive coordinator. You're going to work with everything and you're going to have input. But Andy Reid is calling the plays, in my opinion, and I very much believe that to be true. I think most people understand that, and I think he's a savant. And I understand that things didn't go well. When you talk about drops and things like that, I don't know how much a coach really affects things like that. But as far as studying and knowing what to do and having good confidence and work habits and things like that, I think there is things there that both coaches probably bring a different type of style than what's been there. So to that end, I see it a little bit different, not in a bad way, just kind of in a different light.
I wanted to ask you about Patrick Mahomes and that knee injury. Look, not that there's ever a good time to suffer an injury, but I guess the timing of this one kind of bleeding over to the early part of next season, because it's got to be give or take, right around week 1, the 9-month mark. I talked to JJ Burton last night, and he talked to me about how he has 2 ACL tears from his NFL career. And just the timing of it to come back. He mentioned the technology now, and especially athletes being more bigger and physical in today's football. And I think with Patrick, I don't think anyone's doubting his ability and just his desire to want to come back as soon as the season gets underway. My biggest concern is, don't rush it. If you got to wait 1 or 2 games, hey, not the worst thing in the world. We saw this team did overcome an 0-2 start for a moment this season. I'm curious what your thoughts are with the timing and whether you think he could be ready for that week 1 game.
Yeah, I pretty much echo what you're talking about, which is don't want him to come back too early. Yeah, I mean, having been around Patrick, interviewed him several times, and just in the locker room, the dude competes like nobody's business. I mean, it's intense. And that's a good thing on the field. It's not a great thing sometimes when you have injuries like this, because ultimately it's going to come down to your genetics and how your body heals. And he's going to do everything he's supposed to do. And believe me, they've got every day mapped out, probably every hour mapped out of what's going on. If he doesn't come back until a quarter of the way into the season, I think that would be fine. If he's ready to go and they truly believe that, then that's great. But time will tell. I was on the Pittsburgh Steelers squad in 1995 when Rod Woodson tore his ACL first game of the season, and then he ended up not being put on IR and played in the Super Bowl. And he still had a little bit of a limp, but he was the first and I think only player to ever come back from an ACL same season. But that doesn't happen very often. It used to be a longer window. It's shorter now, but in general, you just got to make sure that things heal up and you're good to go. And if anybody can do it and be ready, it would be Patrick Mahomes. But really, we're not going to know until we get a lot farther down the road.
I know everything with Mahomes is under a microscope. I think I remember his first season as a starter. I think I heard you on Sirius XM NFL radio, and I want to say it was the afternoon of the Monday night game where he had that left-handed pass. I think you were making a comment during that interview, something to the effect of how, it's great to see that success, but if anyone saw this coming, you'd be lying with the way he just got off to a really hot start. And I remember after that season, I think it was maybe 2018 now that I think about it, I remember he had the 50 touchdowns, the 5,000 yards, and in the offseason they're saying, oh, well, he's going to regress. Well, of course, I mean, it's kind of hard to go up from 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards, but just the way that things have gone, and I know the numbers have not been there the last couple of years, hence why maybe you're seeing some changes on the offensive side, and I'm sure we'll see that with the personnel as the offseason continues, but do you have a prediction as to maybe what he might look like stats-wise for 2026?
Stats-wise, no idea. I just know he's going to get back to form because, quite honestly, if you look at it, the team would have been, I don't want to say fine, but we would have been better. And I think we make the playoffs if the offensive line stays healthy, even with everything else going on. The offensive line is healthy. I'm okay with the offensive line for the most part if it's healthy, but it wasn't. And because of that, at the end of the year, you had two tackles that were third string or had been on the practice squad, and a right guard who's out. So you only had two of the five starters. So that's a whole different beast. I think if the offensive line stabilizes, it cures a whole bunch of problems.
Yeah, I did want to ask you about that offensive line too, because I'm a true believer. If you have a good offensive line, I think everything else is going to fall into play. And left tackle, Josh Simmons, he had the injury. Before that, he had the personal problem. If he can be available, that's huge because he looked great when he was on the field. Yep. Kingsley Suamataia, I think, certainly made some improvements. Creed and Trey, no need to get into them. Everyone knows what they deliver and what they bring to the table. I think it's just that right tackle spot. I think it's expected they'll cut Juwan Taylor for cap purposes. But then they have Esapole. They also have Jalen Moore, who they signed last year to a 2-year deal. A pretty hefty contract as well for a backup. What do you think they do? Do you think they might go with one of those two guys I just mentioned, or is there a possibility they might draft someone?
I don't think they draft somebody early, that's for certain. But yeah, I think they let go of Juwan Taylor because of what you mentioned with the cap hit and what they save. I feel like that's almost a foregone conclusion, but you follow that a lot closer than I do. So if that's the case, then it was a Jalen Moore that they brought in from San Francisco. I think that would be the natural side of things to go to the right tackle. Although, and I forget his name, but the gentleman I mean, maybe they try him at the right tackle spot and see, because he did decent. I mean, it was. I thought he showed something to things, but time will tell. But I think in general it'll be what we talked about beforehand.
What are your thoughts on the running back position? Because if Jeremiah Love, which I would be shocked if he's there at 9, I know that's a really that's the universal popular pick for Kansas City Chiefs fans. Kareem Hunt, would he come back, especially with that familiarity with Eric Bieniemy? Would they consider bringing back Pacheco? I'm curious what you think the running back room could look like in the future.
Yeah, that was my big concern going into this year, was the running back room. I didn't think we had the type of running backs we needed. I'm not trying to get on either of the guys we just talked about. I just think, between the injury or just having old legs in terms of
Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, Kareem. Sorry. Yeah. I lost it there. It wasn't, neither one of them have long speed. And I didn't think we had anybody who had long speed, who was at least playing. I know Brashard Smith has it, but there's a learning curve there with getting to the running back position. I'm of the opinion that running back is the easiest position to fill in the NFL. I feel like you can find that. But again, I think it also goes back to what you and I were talking about a little bit ago, which it has a lot to do with that offensive line and what's going on there. Because I feel like we got our running backs open, and when I say open, into the second level several times very easily, and maybe not being touched or very little. But then they weren't able to beat somebody, and if they did, they didn't have the long speed. So for us this year, a long chunk yardage for the Chiefs was really 10 to 15 yards. I don't know that we even had a 25-yard jaunt. I don't know what it would be, but it wasn't much. So I think that's a big thing. So when you talk about the draft, though, I think it has a lot to do with what they find in free agency and if they think they can fill it there, because I feel like they would prefer to fill that position free agency wise with somebody that they know and trust and go a different direction in the draft. Although I say I don't know what it is. I feel like edge rusher is the number one priority, or at least the defensive line in general.
Do you have a name that you think the Chiefs might take at 9? I love Ruben Bain, but I would be shocked if he's there at 9.
Right. I think if you see a difference maker that you think can be a franchise edge rusher or something like that, then you consider trying to go up and get him. And it wouldn't surprise me if they think somebody of that caliber is there. Veach is very much well known for if they want something, wheeling and dealing and trying to figure it out. So time will tell on that one. But obviously, we have the number 9 pick. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so number 9 pick, and I think we have a few extra picks. It wouldn't surprise me if we package something unless we just think we can get who we want at the number 9 spot. But as much as we hate this season, picking number 9 is not bad, not only for the first round, but as you go through the other rounds also.
Couple more questions before we let you go, Kendall. I do want to touch on the defensive side. The defense has been great each of the last 3 years under Spags. I know this past year, in terms of sack production and takeaway production, it wasn't very good in that category, but they still do a really good job of not giving up a lot of yards, not giving up a lot of points in general. I know it was a little tougher this year, and I think it's because this might have been the worst offense we had in the Patrick Mahomes era, but they still found a way to hold on to their own, I thought, and I think that's something that if they can fix the offense, there'll be that balance. But I am nervous about the defense. I know we alluded to the salary cap, and you have a lot of defensive backs that are about to hit free agency. Guys like Jalen Watson, Josh Williams, who played more his first couple of years than he did his last 2 years. Najee Johnson, I'm curious to see what they end up doing with him. Trent McDuffie. There seems to be this popular prediction that he might be on the move, because they may not be able to afford what he might be asking for. Brian Cook, another guy in the secondary. And then, I know we already talked about this, but trying to see if you can get that elite edge rusher to help your front four. What do you make of this defense and just kind of what it might look like in the future?
Well, an elite edge rusher, as you know, makes everybody in the defensive backfield a lot better. I think Spags has proven that he can develop young talent in the defensive backfield and be comfortable with it. And actually, he was forced to do it, I think, a couple of years ago when he really didn't want to. I think he made the comment that he didn't like playing young guys, but he hoped that their speed would make up for their lack of experience. And I think that's what exactly happened. As far as the defensive backs that are up this year that you mentioned, Trent, and some of the other guys, I mean, you have to wait. This is the part of the NFL that's tough. When you have when you have the best QB in the league, I think, even though it didn't show this year, and you're paying him as such, you've got the highest paid right guard. I mean, you've got some expensive guys. You've got the or one of the most expensive defensive tackles. You have to make tough decisions, which is to say you have to draft well, you have to bring them up the right way, coach them up and make sure they can play earlier than normal. And you've just got to you've got to deal with that because of the salary cap. And this also is why we're doing things like this in the offseason, because the offseason has become so much more pivotal, so much more interesting because of these questions that you're asking and that we're trying to answer right now.
Do you think Travis Kelce comes back for one more year?
I personally don't. It wouldn't surprise me if he does, but I think he's done all he can do. I think, that being said, I think he could play at a good level. I don't know if he wants to do that. I think he probably remembers how tough it was last year to get in the best shape of his life, and he played better and everything. It's kind of funny. A lot of people acted like he didn't have a good year. Well, compared to his other years, yeah, but in general, he had a great year. And I just think he might be ready for another part of his life. He's got great people to bounce it off, i.e. his brother Jason, and then he's starting another phase of his life with the marriage coming up and things like that. So I personally don't think he will, and I'm kind of curious how long he will hold that decision. I guess privately, and until he finally comes out with it and let people know. I'm guessing he and the Chiefs have talked, and they probably, if they don't know already, it's probably like, we need to know by a certain date. And I think he would understand that. So you would think something's coming sooner than later.
Before you go, Kendall, I know you got a couple of things going on that you're involved with that I think people should know about and share here. First off, you're going to be taking part in the Cristo Rey High School Dancing with the KC Stars. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a Cristo Rey Dancing with the KC Stars. It benefits Cristo Rey High School, which is for high school students whose families are at or below the poverty level. They intern 1 day a week with companies around the KC area, a lot of great big companies that we all know, and then they go to school 4 days a week. It's 100% graduation rate. This is the fundraiser. So basically, it's not the best dancer, it's the dancer who raises the most funds. And there's 8 notables from around the KC area. Actually, there's 7 notables and myself, and I rounded it out. So we're doing that. Team Gammon, love to have you on. Go to kendallgammon.com, and you can go to my website there and click on it. Or if you go to cristoreykc.org, you can find out more information as well. Or follow me on social media, because we're dropping videos each week to get you on Team Gammon. Have a great time with that. So that's one that's going on. That'll be April 25th at the Overland Park Convention Center. There'll be about 1,000 people there. So it's a pretty cool event, a great event. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Fred Astaire Dance Studios and what they've done up in the Briarcliff area and trying to teach somebody like myself to dance. My goal is to not dance like Shrek, and I think we're getting that. And of course, I always talk about the fact that I work for War Horses for Veterans.
Yeah.
And combat vets and first responders for a week of mounted equine therapy, bring them from all over the U.S., mental health, PTSD, deal with those things and get them up on the horses. It's just a wonderful thing. We have a 30-acre ranch out in Stillwell, Kansas. So some great things. If you're interested in that, whfv.org, and you can find out more as well. So I appreciate you giving me that platform.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Kendall, I appreciate your time here. Hopefully the Chiefs can have a good offseason and bounce back, and hopefully we can have you back on sometime next season and hopefully talking about some good wins next year. How about that?
That sounds good. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Kendall. Appreciate it. All right. Off he goes. Kendall Gammon joining us here on the Chiefs Zone podcast. Big thanks to him making time for us here on the Chiefs Zone. Big thanks to you guys for joining me for this morning edition of the Chiefs Zone podcast. If you missed any part of this, it'll be archived shortly on Facebook, X, and YouTube. Great conversation with Kendall if you missed that. If you enjoyed it, hey, please let a friend know about the podcast. The interview with Kendall Gammon will be uploaded shortly on YouTube. The conversation we had with JJ Burden, that is uploaded to YouTube. So if you missed any part of this interview with Kendall Gammon or any of the interview we had with JJ Burden on last night's podcast, they will be on YouTube. So you guys can check it out there. Please subscribe to the podcast. Let a friend know on YouTube if you haven't done so already. All right. That'll do it for this edition of the Chiefs Zone podcast. My name is Farzin Vasugian. Once again, big thanks to Kendall Gammon. We'll be back later today, 7 p.m. Central Time. Join me then. We will talk about some of the coaching news out there. Brian Daboll interviewing with the Buffalo Bills. Also, the Buffalo Bills, little interesting information that came out regarding General Manager Brandon Beane that I think we've got to get into here on this episode. So we'll talk about all of that tonight and much more here on the Chiefs Zone podcast. Thank you all for joining me this morning. I'll talk to you all tonight.